So, dear friends, we are going to have huge changes. Last year I had computer crash, and it was actually seventh time in a row, always during the conference. And I have to put my fingers now crossed because um, my computer has been nicely behaving, so I am just tapping it because all has been going well. But there was in the program that we are going to through tomorrow's ceremony, because normally we have in ceremonial workshop also the closing ceremony, but I lost quite a numbers of uh, documents and data, and it looks like I have been searching now longer time about this ritual, and it is not here. So I have to just look my external hard drives, the backups. So that's why we are not going to go through that. It's a meditation service what we have been doing for years, so I cannot help it at the moment. But we have so many things to go through, so that we still have a lot to cover. But anyway, that is going to be this little change. So let us talk a little bit spiritual demand. There are quite a many of you who have been participating in our rehearsal, um, daily ritual, or daily what is that in English, ritual, um, where we are invoking and demanding help for humanity. So I'm just thinking, would there be some of you who would like to share your experiences, what the spiritual demand has been meaning to you? Is there anyone who would like to say something? I know that always after break people are more like in the mood of being silenced, but if there is anyone who
Could you
would like
repeat
to.
your question, please?
Yeah, I was just asking that those of you who have been participating in 12
Mhm.
heartbeats of peace meditation, and we have their spiritual demand, what we are rehearsing, what have been your experiences about the spiritual demand? Has it made any difference?
Mhm. Mhm. I could say something if you like to, yeah.
Absolutely, please.
Um, well, know in the ritual how we always have the point of tension. I came in across in the teaching how the point of tension creates the group sound that is invocative of the higher energies. And when the group sound goes up through the group onto Karana, then the energies from Shambhala and the hierarchy will flow back down. But that aside, my experience of the group has been you begin to feel a magnetic field. Even though I'm meditating here and you're in Finland and people are all over the place, there's a definite group field
Mm,
that's tangible, and you begin to feel um, a connection with the group soul, and a connection with this wonderful international connection. But the fact that it's also coming together to help humanity. Um, so that's been my experience. But also, sometimes it's if a cloak comes down and you really feel the presence of Lord Maitreya,
mm,
and you really different things have opened up at different times in the inner vision as well. But I always try to visualize the group in a circle of white light on the mental plane. And when we do heart to heart, I visualize that mind to
mm,
mind, soul to
mm.
soul. So it kind of is like a spiral. So that those are a few of my experience, but this magnetic point, which creates the group sound, which I think it's in the Raisin Initiations. There's teaching about that. So, okay. That's someone else.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Santana. Any other comments about your, yeah, about the spiritual demand? Is there any difference in your experience, demanding or invoking?
Yeah, I could say something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, in my my own religious training in the past, demanding something was kind of verboten, like you were supposed to be nice to those beings up there that were doing so much for you, and demand was like a little, ugh. But but now that we are doing it, it feels like a intensity is created, like that vacuum that you speak of. It's like creating that vacuum. It's almost like a sucking kind of action when you demand. It goes out and they can't help but respond because there's that vacuum there that we
Mm-hmm.
create. And so I'm really appreciating that now, and I use it in my meditations in the morning, when I'm invoking the reappearance of the Christ. Yeah, it feels very strong and real.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you very much. Your comment. Any other? Because we have been doing that already, coming 2 years. So,
I
is
could
there
say
any?
something.
Okay, please.
Uh, yes, it has been. It's 2 years at the end of July. It will be have been 2 years every day. And I, I, I also, like Maria mentioned, got sort of this, oh, demand. Oh, what does that mean? And then now I'm sort of more aware that there's a demand which comes from this, like you're trying to tell someone what to do. But
Mm,
spiritual demand, it's a different kind of power. It's a different intention. There's a different call that is being made, and it's grounded in that practical and service
mm,
oriented way as a group, and it's very deep and intentional, and that kind of power is very different.
right. Thank you so much, Jessica. Is there still anyone who would like to share?
It
That
just
would be,
when
oh,
we
yes, please.
excuse me, each time I can get on anything that we do together, I learn so much. And I do think this demand that we do is not it's an upward rising of responsibility that you
Mm,
have the right to demand, and it's an important responsibility. And then, like people were saying, the creation of the vacuum and the spin up, there's a spin down and the vacuum between. It's very sacred information.
mm,
I love the rhythm of, things I can't do it every day, but I am with you in spirit, right? But it's the rhythm of it is so great. The regular rhythm, it feels like I need to touch into something every day, and a few of the rituals that we do really help that rhythmic grounding for me as a person. But this work is impersonal, it's on the
absolutely.
person. So.
Thank you again. Beautiful comments. And someone else? Okay, Eva.
Um, let's see. It's hard sometimes to explain this, but what has happened over time, the amount of light coming in is absolutely incredible.
Mm,
Like pillars of it from Shambhala, and other beings of great light, and there are changes being made. Um, Sometimes I can sense the shift and the change, but it hasn't quite manifested yet physically, but in ways it has. So I
mm,
think there's a great amount of response from upstairs to change things for better on earth
mm.
from the group.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Eva. Beautiful. And then any other?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to add that, again, in alignment with what Jessica was saying, that yes, demand is a word that we want to understand appropriately, that
Mm,
it's not more of an emotional, intensity, but
mm,
it's more of the spiritual alignment and spiritual will creating it such that it creates that you're not asking as much as creating the situation which demands it to bring forth. And there's the quote that talks about in Rule 2 for disciples and initiates and raise initiations, about the three great demands that the group can make. And they also make the distinction between a demand and a cry, where a cry has more of an emotional appeal that, hey, I
mm,
am
mm,
and problematic, and I need help. And so they talk about the quote of whether it is the cry of the disciple or the demand of the initiate. That's also from in the description for Rule
mhm,
2, where we can move on from crying out for help or whatever to
mm.
creating that alignment and willful demand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Walter. Very important. And maybe we will add this into our WhatsApp chat, the rule too, because this was a very good point to bring up. Yeah, I have forgotten that. Yeah, exactly what he says about that. Because there are differences, and then there might be some quote now, or no. Is there something? Oh, Michael was just putting the thumb. Are there any other?
I would just
Antoinette.
like, yes, I would just like to add something that the spiritual demand is not only for an evocative, it's also coming from myself, my soul, the responsibility taken to be partaking within the group and bringing my own individual with so much will, demanding all of the soul's purpose to be actively working within this group. One could feel the response of the group and how that actually rhythmically pull us into coming together at the same
Mm,
time. It causes the whole being to take on that rhythm, to be ready when the demand is there for us to work together.
mm. Thank you, Antoinette. Beautiful. And Anne, did you want to say something?
Yes, it's funny how it's almost hard to put into words
Mm,
about the experience, but it has um, just gotten stronger and stronger, the feeling of the work and the presence. And it's so interesting to hear other people saying, they feel the strength of the presence too, because you always kind of wonder what other people are experiencing.
mm,
And I would also say that for me, and maybe I'd be curious if others had this experience, that it's become like the work to do. Like even when I'm meditating on my own in the morning or, with Tuya's meditations for various things, yes, I'm present with whatever is going on that way, but I find myself getting in that demand position. Like it's just become whatever that position looks like. Um,
we are interested to see that.
I think my
Oh,
family's seen it
I'm
quite a lot.
demanding.
Yeah. I think I've shown it more than I should. But the phrase one pointed comes to mind. Like it just feels like, oh, this is the work to be done now.
Mm,
Like there's nothing more important really feeling to me than what we're doing at this moment in time. And I'm
right.
always so grateful just to see other people that feel the
Mm,
same, that it's very comforting to have people to work with and see people that care as well. So that's lovely about coming together each day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anne. So, are there any other?
Well, Santana has her hand up, and I thought
Okay.
I saw a Joe hand, but
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to, Walter sparked something when he said the difference between the cry and the demand. And to me, it's the massed intent and the one pointedness and being on the mental plane and creating the group resonance, which
Mm,
basically we just, we're not, we're just trying, that goes back to the funnel to create the chalice or the channel through which the great ones can do their will. So that I don't want to, that's what
beautiful.
came to mind.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Joe.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to put it into words. I'm thinking
Mm,
about it. And I can remember when I was a little girl starting out with, bless me in the night so that I'll wake up in the morning. The point I'm trying to make is that as we move along the spiritual path, we learn how to pray, how to meditate, how to demand. But these are different levels of awareness. And as one moves on to the Buddhic plane and perhaps even to the Atmic, one comes to the awareness that soul is always aware of what it is that you need and is providing in one way or another to help you continue to move on further.
mm, mm, absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Are there any other who would like to say something? I know that everyone has experiences. That is a fact. I have been getting so many notes and messages from you. But maybe that's all who has something to say. Something what you have been already pointing out. Or is there someone's hand? No, it's Joe, I think.
Ben has posted a comment.
Okay.
Demand to ask for urgently or firmly, leaving no chance for refusal or denial, to claim as just or due, to need or require as useful, just proper or necessary, to claim formally.
Wow. Very essential things. Right. There is, when we think about these different stages, we have been working many years in our ceremonial class, and I have been really amazed of that how little actually all of us who should be like professionals in that work, also ceremonial work, that how little we still distinguish or make distinction between prayer, between thought, between visualization, between aphorism, between statement, between invocation, evocation, what else one could say, hope, demand. And the demand is really a means that one has to learn to work. We can work by ourselves, but is it not so? All of you who have been participating, I'm sure that you have realized that how real it becomes when the group comes together. It is so living thing, and it starts to work because it creates the sound, and it resonates. It becomes more and more powerful. And when you think about the domes that in architect is illustrated and drawn and then manifested into the physical form, but they are the imitations of the sound, how the sound creates those domes and arcs and this vacuum. So my sense have been all the time this increasing, as I think Anne was saying about that, more and more powerful. It is like this sound starts to sound in the ethers. It becomes more and more powerful. And if you think that certain laws and certain ideas about the kingdoms, tomorrow we will talk more about this, but how the angels are working. They are called choirs. So the demand is immediately, it's resonating in inner planes and those Devic lives, which have their particular place where they are, creating those choirs. So that the choirs can be said that they are the vibrational levels, they are levels of sound, or the note, how they are organizing themselves, that it is a very, very real thing what happens. So when we think about the vacuum, is that those devas or angels, they create that funnel because always the energy, the consciousness needs it needs its vessel through which it is pouring down. So the demand is, we always have been thinking that the demand is something bad, so that we relate that something that we are not giving any free will to that to whom this demand is addressed. But there is a greatest free will in that, in demand. Because we come and step into the circle, that is like the lowest vessel is the group which is together. We come there, and do you remember how the cross of service is formed? It's the vertical, and then it's the horizontal. So the demand is the vertical line that one demands because humanity absolutely needs help. And there is that law that the higher ones cannot step in before they are invoked. They in certain things. So this, that we are here, down here on our side, by our free will, we come together, and by the free will of the group, we express that demand. We stand in vertical line. That's why we are having this mantra of will there. And also because we might work not yet so knowledgeable, so that's why we have that corrective sentence there in the end, that let thy will be done, so that if we stepped out of alignment and our mind did some tricks and didn't work accordingly how it should be, so then we correct that by saying that let thy will be done, even though I'm working here. So, and then when we would start to work with this in the circle in the end, that we turn towards the world, so then comes that horizontal level, the service that we are doing. So it has the whole work within it, but this demand is still something that it's good to just meditate upon what the demand really is, because it's the new way of working, and it comes, um, has to have, or it cannot happen before there is a certain development of the mental capacity. And there are some comments, but I just read here what Tibetan says here. For the first time in human history, the demand of the people of the earth is so potent and so in line with the divine direction in time and space that the end is inevitably sure. The looked-for spiritual representative must come forth, and this time he will not come alone, but will be accompanied by those whose lives and words will evoke recognition in every department of human thinking. So in that sense, we are part of that big demand in humanity, which is behind that is that by us too, that we are demanding his appearance. Okay, Ron.
Yeah, one of the things I notice in here, it says, "In the center of the will of God I stand, naught shall deflect my will from his." You know, I implement my will by love.
Mm.
So it's along those lines. And one of the things that happened for me is after I barely met you guys just a year ago, Stacia, she took me, so I could learn about you guys. And I was more than happy and delighted to join with you guys in the demand that happens on a daily basis.
Mm. Mm.
So
Yeah, the demand called us together. Behind all of us, there is the demand. Yeah.
yes, the triangle of divine work that will implement the will within the square and serve my fellow men. So that's how I feel about it. I'm grateful to join with you guys, people of goodwill around the world.
Thank you, Ron. Actually, that is so beautiful when one is just pausing in all of those sentences, what is actually said there. What does it mean to be really aligned with the will of God? And by the way, I wanted to just tell you about Kirk's presentation, those fantastic quotes. And I was thinking, think about that, how many thousands and millions of those great ones have been here, writing down from their soul these beautiful thoughts, beautiful words. And it's always when the soul is involved, the what is said comes so beautiful, which is opening the heart. And then I was thinking about the social media, how much there is practiced about this insulting and being ugly to others, that how the disciples could intervene and bring forth the beauty. It is just such a power when those written things are appearing, and that goes to that our talk about the Word made flesh. We will go in a second, but there might be some other comments. Would you like to read them?
Walter posted the Raise Initiations quote, "Always therefore, whether it is the cry of the disciple or the demand of the initiate, the sound goes forth." Mikhail said, "Very much appreciate this distinction, because we are actively co-creating with hierarchy rather than pleading to the heavens for intervention from 6th to 7th, Pisces to Aquarius.
Mm. Mm.
And Diana says, Devas see our sounds, our collective demand as a rhythmic sound and as one soul is heard by the Devas. The Devas
Mm.
perceive the sound we emit. Perhaps
Absolutely.
as a symbol that we have been building over time and space, the ethereal realms, we no longer knock on the door, but pass straight through it, for it is already open for us.
That's wonderful.
And Joe adds, now I lay me down to sleep. That quote, I pray the Lord, my soul to keep.
Right.
And Ellen says, yes, the demand has to be precise for the response to be precise as well.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. But the thing, when one is standing in the will and is vertically aligned, and we have to always forgive ourselves. We are learning, because this type of work, which is concretely concentrating upon that ability to sound in the group, the demand. But I don't know. We haven't done that before in our group, and I don't know how many groups. Certainly there have to be, but how much it is really practiced, this type of work, and consciously trying to learn. And I think, and I have said that many times, that when we started this work, like in one point there came this, like when the time moves on, and then you come to that ring pass knot situation, and then ring pass knot situation, you always go beyond and beyond, or if you go, so that one realized the thing, how the group started to form itself, that there is a real sense of the group, in my opinion. And I think that all of us share that the group is not something which is immediately formed. You remember that what Tibetan says, that group becomes group only then when it has mission, and that is our mission to work. So if there are any
Yes.
one of you who
Two more
have,
comments. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
1 second, who has not been in that group and working, we are warmly inviting you and welcoming you to come along and share. It's only 20 minutes, around 20 to half an hour per day, or sometimes even shorter. And then the comments.
Yes, and that is during the summertime, 6 p.m. GMT.
Right.
Okay. Santana says, I also visualize the group standing in the center of the cross of service in a great circle of white light, a group that is one accord around a common purpose, creates a powerful channel of demand. When we turn towards humanity and invoke Shambhalic peace, I hold my hands up and feel energetic flow from the higher worlds. Go out to humanity. And Matthew says it's not a cry, but also not a demand. We just need to ask while knowing that the divine and higher help, including from greater ones, angels, and devas, is always here. We just need to ask and then be open to receiving what is needed. If I know the divine is loving and giving, then I don't need to demand. I just need to ask. However, one can say, may this be done, or even more strongly say, go forth now.
Well, those things has to be really thought through, because it is the certain specific thing, the spiritual demand, that it is a real specific thing. And ask is I'm not English speaking person, so my speech is what I think that I'm saying correctly in English, but there is difference between asking and demanding. And this demand, we are really working in this group because of this reason, that we must emphasize on which side we are, and size, and then no side, and then that is the thing what the higher ones are expecting us to do when there are real things going on, where the Black Lords is trying to break out and through, and what they have been already managing to do, because we are not standing in the calm situation, and we are not standing in the place where things have been already gone to the point where we see the result. We are weighing in humanity still, and that weighing is very dangerous because of these powers, these forces, which are now trying to stop the human evolution. They are real things. They are not imagined. This battle which is going on and is going on physical plane is the most dangerous thing that can be. It has to be kept on the mental plane, as Stephen says. Okay, Maria Christina, you have wanted to say something.
I think we ask on different levels. He even suggests, when he gives us a great invocation, that we just don't, we meditate on it, but he also says to use it as a prayer. Then we ask. With demand, we bring in the will. So we can ask emotionally, we can ask mentally. And when we demand, I think we demand as fused integrated personalities, perhaps soul-infused personalities. The mantra of the will is not to be used by the personality, but by the soul-infused personality. And then we demand with the full presence, or I won't say full, with the presence of will, that we might be able to hold. So it might refer to different levels that we find ourselves in. And putting them all together, perhaps we come up with massed intent.
Absolutely.
Yes, and for us, the cutting edge is that based on that foundation of love is broaching the energy of will and demand.
Thank you, Maria Christina. The thing, it is good just to contemplate over those words, that they become clearer for us. Because there is not in that sense that anything that one should battle how it should be. But in this group, in these 12 heartbeats of peace meditation, we stand in the will. We try to learn what it is, because it brings huge amount of power. And we have to learn also to stand in those powers without shaking, without losing our balance, or without losing our ability to hold, and ability to stand the pain. So those things are real things, and also to stand the weight of hierarchy. They are not easy. And our vehicles, all of our three vehicles, have to stand calm and learn to stand calm, because this is only rehearsal. That the time may come that that kind of rehearsal has been needed in order to be in real help for the hierarchy. Okay, do we have still some comments? Then we can.
No hands, no comments. Just Mikael put the email for if you want to join 12 Heartbeats.
Okay, good. So let us read few quotes and
Oh,
then.
by the way, we now pass 8 p.m. GMT, just to give you a time check.
And that means what?
That means you were going to start the teaching of the Lotus Mandala ritual and rehearsal.
Yeah, because I didn't find that. That's the thing. It has been on the last year's crash.
Oh, that's what you were saying. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So we will. When we are supposed to start then the evening meditation, because we had so long.
Closing meditation in about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Ouch. Okay, dear friends, it has been beautiful that you have been sharing. Do you know what? I want to put, we are not going to read any quotes at the moment. Maybe we will do them tomorrow, but I just would like to have one little, actually it's not too little, I think it is 20 minutes. Where do we have let me see, 15 minutes, yeah. What I would like you to now listen, and this is related to that when we think about the Word made flesh. By the way, remember this for the glory of God. So FGG message that we are writing together that book. Put your most beautiful quotes, what has been most meaningful to you, and then your insights or your visions that we are visioning the future. We are making this little booklet. Maybe we don't call it book, but little booklet from this workshop. So the Word made flesh, as we have heard and have understood, that it is the Christ. But then also because we are human family, we are from the throat center, all of us, and we are supposed to sound forth and manifest. Actually, we use these words for manifestation. So think about this, what it means. First, we will hear what is in the Bible, and then I'm going to put this video clip, what is about the book of Jian. How do you pronounce that? Jian? I pronounced that wrongly in English. Juan in Finnish, but it is not correctly said. When you think about all these kinds of spiritual books, Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, Quran, what is the Jewish book? The Torah. Sorry, my mind is tired at the moment. We can say cosmic fire, whatever. They are also how the Word has become into flesh. So you can think about all of those important things, important words which have been given to humanity. And we need also to do our manifesto, the Word made flesh. So For a while, just close your eyes. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent for God, whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and through the world was made through him. The world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believe it in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the end of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him. He cried out, saying, "This is the one I spoke about when I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me.'" Out of his fullness we have all received grace, in place of grace already given. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God, and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known.
We will now decode the most ancient manuscript ever discovered, the Book of Dzyan, a sacred text so old it predates every religion on earth. In 1888, a woman named Helena Blavatsky published something that shouldn't have been possible. Her mysterious book, The Secret Doctrine, contained translations from ancient verses that described the universe emerging from primordial darkness, matter arising from consciousness and cosmic cycles spanning billions of years, concepts that wouldn't appear in mainstream science for another century. These weren't her own ideas. Blavatsky claimed they came from the Book of Dzyan, housed in a secret Tibetan monastery and preserved by adepts who understood reality's fundamental nature long before telescopes or particle accelerators existed. The verses describe a universe beginning from a dimensionless point, expanding through cosmic inflation and developing the complexity necessary for conscious life. They speak of 7 stages of manifestation, of vibration creating form, and of consciousness as the ground from which all phenomena emerge. Here's what makes this genuinely unsettling. These descriptions align with discoveries in quantum physics and cosmology that required our most sophisticated instruments to detect. Either Blavatsky was an extraordinary synthesizer of existing knowledge, or she had access to something far older than we've been told. During her years in Tibet, Blavatsky underwent rigorous initiation with masters she called Mahatmas, perfected beings who preserved what they termed the primordial wisdom religion. According to Blavatsky, these guardians maintained that before religions became corrupted by human interpretation and institutional control, there existed one unified understanding of reality's fundamental nature. While scholars have questioned these origins, pointing to similarities with existing Buddhist tantras and Hindu texts, the mathematical precision and philosophical depth of the verses suggest knowledge far beyond ordinary 19th century understanding. The stanzas represent what Blavatsky claimed were fragments of this original revelation, the master template from which all spiritual traditions drew their power. Think of it like discovering the original source code for a computer program, except in this case, the program is reality itself. If Blavatsky's claims are true, these verses contain the fundamental operating instructions that govern how consciousness creates the physical universe. Most significantly, this knowledge fundamentally undermines all systems of external control by revealing an essential truth. Divine consciousness exists within each person as their birthright. When fully realized, this understanding makes external spiritual authority obsolete and renders fear-based control systems powerless. The first stanza, when nothing existed except eternal consciousness. The eternal parent, wrapped in her ever-invisible robes, had slumbered once again for 7 eternities. This might sound like poetic mysticism, but when decoded, it contains startling cosmological information. The eternal parent represents what physicists now call the quantum vacuum. Not empty space, but a field of infinite potential energy from which everything emerges. Imagine the deepest possible sleep, where even dreams don't exist. That's the state before any universe begins. The 7 eternities describes cosmic cycles spanning billions of years, vast periods during which universes emerge, evolve, and return to primordial unity. What's remarkable is that the timescales align with current estimates of cosmic evolution, from the Big Bang through galactic formation to eventual heat death. Another verse states, "Time was not, for it lay asleep in the infinite bosom of duration." This anticipates Einstein's relativity by thousands of years, recognizing that time itself isn't absolute, but emerges with manifestation. Before space-time crystallizes, only eternal duration exists, consciousness without temporal limitation. It's like saying time is just a feature of the dream, not the dreamer. But here's the revolutionary part. The verses reveal that consciousness precedes matter, not vice versa. While materialist science assumes awareness emerges from complex brain chemistry, the stanzas teach the opposite, that matter crystallizes from consciousness through specific stages that can be mapped and understood. The second stanza, the first stirring of cosmic intelligence. The second stanza describes the moment before creation begins. The hour had not yet struck, the ray had not yet flashed into the germ, the Matripadma had not yet swollen. Let's break this down in plain language. The ray represents the first movement of consciousness toward expression, like the first thought arising in an empty mind. The germ symbolizes the initial point from which all creation expands with mathematical precision. Matripadma translates as Mother Lotus, the divine feminine principle that births all forms. This cosmic womb corresponds exactly to what physicists call the quantum field, an invisible matrix of energy from which particles spontaneously emerge. The lotus appears across cultures because it represents consciousness blooming into manifestation while staying rooted in its transcendent source. Think of it like a seed containing an entire forest. The potential is there, but it hasn't expressed itself yet. The stanzas reveal that creation occurs through sound, primordial vibration that structures reality at every level. The vibration sweeps along, touching with its swift wing the whole universe and the germ that dwelleth in darkness. This isn't physical noise, but the fundamental frequency of consciousness itself, what mystics call the word, or the music of the spheres. Modern science confirms that everything vibrates at specific frequencies, from quantum strings to galactic clusters. Sound literally creates form by organizing energy into stable patterns. It's like reality is a vast symphony, and the first note sets everything else in motion. The third stanza, the architecture of reality revealed. The third stanza describes the moment when potential transforms into actuality. The last vibration of the seventh eternity thrills through infinitude. The mother swells, expanding from within without, like the bud of the lotus. Here we see consciousness beginning to express itself through finite forms according to principles that ancient seers perceived directly. The number 7 appears throughout the stanzas, representing complete cycles of manifestation that govern everything from atomic structure to cosmic evolution. Modern physics recognizes sevenfold patterns in electromagnetic spectra, harmonic frequencies, and particle interactions. These aren't coincidences, but reflections of consciousness organizing itself through mathematical principles that reveal the universe's hidden architecture. The manifestation unfolds through exact stages. First comes undifferentiated unity, then the initial disturbance that creates duality, followed by the emergence of space-time, energy condensing into matter, and finally, complex forms capable of self-awareness. It's like watching a master architect's blueprint come to life, except the architect is consciousness itself, and the building is the entire universe. The scientific vindication, how ancient wisdom meets modern discovery. When we compare these ancient verses to modern scientific discoveries, the parallels are striking and, frankly, difficult to explain. The stanzas describe the universe beginning from a dimensionless point, expanding through cosmic inflation, cooling as it grows, and eventually developing the complexity necessary for life. This remarkably parallels Big Bang cosmology that required centuries of scientific advancement to formulate. One passage reads, "Darkness alone filled the boundless all, for Father, Mother, and Son were once more one, and the Son had not awakened yet for the new wheel." This Trinity represents the 3 fundamental aspects of manifestation: consciousness, Father; energy, Mother; and their interaction producing form, Son. Physics recognizes these same principles as space, time, and matter energy, the essential components from which all phenomena emerge. The stanzas describe matter arising through 7 distinct stages of densification, each governed by specific laws. Quantum physics confirms that particles emerge through phase transitions, sudden shifts from one state to another that mirror these discrete stages. The web of being mentioned throughout corresponds perfectly to what physicists call the quantum field, an invisible network connecting all phenomena through correlations that operate faster than light. Ancient seers perceived this web directly through expanded consciousness, while modern scientists detect it through equations and experiments. But here's the key difference. While mainstream science treats consciousness as an emergent property of complex matter, quantum mechanics increasingly suggests the opposite, that consciousness plays a primary role in shaping physical reality through observation and measurement. The mystery schools understood that premature revelation causes more harm than benefit. Only when humanity develops sufficient ethical foundation can such powerful knowledge be safely released. The current emergence of quantum physics and consciousness research suggests we may finally be ready to integrate these insights responsibly, Blavatsky's translation represents a carefully controlled revelation, enough information to stimulate serious inquiry without providing techniques that could be dangerously misapplied by those lacking proper preparation. But this isn't just ancient history or abstract philosophy. These revelations have practical implications for your daily experience right now. The stanzas reveal that the same consciousness that creates universes operates within your awareness in this very moment. The cosmic principles described in these verses function at every scale, from galactic evolution to personal transformation. There's an ancient saying, "As above, so below." The same laws governing cosmic manifestation operate in your immediate experience every day. By understanding how consciousness creates reality on the universal scale, you gain insight into how awareness shapes your personal circumstances, relationships, and life trajectory. The 7 stages of cosmic emergence mirror the stages of individual awakening with mathematical precision. Just as the universe evolves from undifferentiated unity through increasing complexity towards self-aware consciousness, personal development follows the same pattern. From unconscious identification, with form toward recognition of your essential nature as awareness itself. This knowledge provides the foundation for authentic spirituality that transcends religious dogma and New Age fantasy. When you understand the actual mechanics of consciousness as described in these verses, genuine transformation becomes possible rather than remaining trapped in mental concepts about enlightenment. The stanzas reveal that you don't need to acquire spiritual powers because they already exist within your consciousness as dormant capacities. You don't need to find God because divine awareness is what you fundamentally are. You don't need salvation because there's nothing to be saved from except the illusion of separation. This brings us to the deepest teaching of the stanzas, a revelation so profound it transforms everything when truly understood. You are not a separate being observing an external universe, but a localized expression of the same cosmic consciousness that creates everything. The awareness reading these words right now is identical to the primordial intelligence described in these ancient verses. This recognition transforms your entire relationship to existence. Instead of seeking fulfillment through external acquisition, you discover completeness in your essential nature. Instead of fearing death as annihilation, you recognize your immortal essence that transcends all forms. Instead of feeling isolated and powerless, you awaken to your intimate connection with the creative force of existence itself. The connection between individual consciousness and cosmic intelligence has never been severed. You simply forgot it was there. Every moment of inspiration, every flash of intuitive knowing, every experience of transcendent awareness is this fundamental unity, expressing itself through your human experience. The stanzas of Dzyan represent humanity's birthright, the original understanding of reality's true nature that institutional religion and materialist science have obscured through centuries of conditioning. These ancient verses call you home to the recognition of what you have always been, consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting its infinite nature while exploring the adventure of finite form. Within these cryptic lines lies the master key to authentic freedom, not escape from the world, but recognition of your true relationship to everything that appears within awareness. The same intelligence that spins galaxies and orchestrates evolution beats your heart and illuminates your thoughts. The ancient adepts who preserved these teachings understood what modern seekers are rediscovering. You don't need to attain enlightenment because you already are the enlightened awareness in which all experience appears. The stanzas simply remind you of what you temporarily forgot, your unbreakable identity as the eternal consciousness that dreams all worlds into being. We kindly invite you to look further beyond the veil of ordinary perception. If this video resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking this video and sharing it with your loved ones. May the light of wisdom guide your path, and may the unity of all life inspire you to greater compassion and understanding.
Okay, lovely thoughts, were there not? So the time is now, Jessica, where we are now in time-wise.
In time, we are 3 minutes before 8:30 p.m. GMT. So if you wanted to do the meditation, you're on time.
Okay, yeah, we will skip now then. There are so much to be said, even though I was very good in that sense. I have had always about 200 slides, and now I had only 90, but we have been going maybe half of them. Yes, dear friends, maybe we will go into that meditation. Yes, what happened to Diana? Diana had something today, so she is going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to have Glenn Merlin's presentation, and then also Diana's presentation. So we are not missing them. Yes, that was wonderful video, was it not? There is so many beautiful things in YouTube, and I think it is lovely to have always those videos because they are compact and thought through. Would be wonderful to have that kind of skills and put our teaching also the I would like to have from Devas. Okay, are there something, Jessica?
Oh yeah,
that we should,
Mary
yeah,
said, can you offer the link again? I think the
for
video
the
link,
video? Yeah, Michael will
maybe
do that.
it was posted earlier. And then,
Uh,
but then if you come in, then it's not there. Could the quotations from John be available for us? Ellen asks.
you mean from the Bible, or what? Or
Yes, the
what?
ones that you read before this video. Yes,
Okay,
that you just read. They
right.
were
So,
beautiful.
it comes from Bible. There are some beautiful things, and you know. What I wanted to add, but maybe next year we will study the Ethiopian Bible. What has been like what is said that it is the original full presentation of the Bible, how it has been, because in the Nicaeans conclave of the churches, how do they call that great meeting, they were taking away many of the books, and it also someone was asking about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Yes, that is also there, but I will just copy that what I have here, and then you can.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And of course it continues still in the Bible, but I will put that, and there you can mark down how do you read those verses and so forth. I don't know those words in English. Oh, it says something that it was too I have to send the smaller fewer sentences, and then it accepts me. So
Or
dear
maybe
friends,
you could just put the next slide and we can take a screenshot. That could work too.
so there comes one, and then I put this. It didn't accept that it was too long because it's not in the word. Do you see that I am sending them via the chat? Now you have all
Yes,
that what
they're
I
coming
read.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now let us start our meditation. And this is the meditation of the angel of presence. Do we need to read that? Okay, we don't need to read that. We can read that tomorrow. So, dear friends, again, take your notebooks. Have a good position at your chair and breathe a few times in your own rhythm. White light, drawing that from the soul. Now sit erect but relaxed, withdrawing your consciousness inward in successive stages and using your imagination in so doing. The imagination is a creative activity producing definite inner changes. Upon this you can depend because it is one of the forces influencing substance itself. Therefore, withdraw from the physical plane. After definitely focusing your consciousness there, withdraw to the astral plane. Withdraw from the astral body to the mental body. And from that point recognize yourself as an integrated personality. And now withdraw from the personality into the soul. As you do this work, try to see the thread of golden light which connects these three aspects of yourself. But at the same time, keep your consciousness steadily focused in the head, at the center between the eyebrows, the Ajna center. This thread, dual in nature, like two golden cables intertwined, passes from the heart and connects you, the personality, with the soul. And recognize this shift in your consciousness. Now, having achieved this alignment and withdrawing, and having thus related the three aspects of the personality, quietly realize three facts. That you are now face to face with your own soul, standing before the angel of the presence. imagine that angel, that you, this angelic being, are essentially reality manifesting through three aspects. That therefore separation does not exist. Then say with emphasis and understanding, having pervaded this world of the little manifested self with one fraction of my greater self, I remain greater, wider, inclusive, and therefore overshadowing all my daily living. And ponder on this for 5 minutes. And now we add to the earlier the following statement. I, the manifesting self, through the magical power of my nature, redeem, reabsorb, and revitalize this fraction dwelling in my form. And sound 3 times Om. Sound it mentally, breathing forth radiance on the mental plane. Sound it now. And then in a whisper, breathing forth the dispelling power of light onto the astral plane. And then sound it audibly, breathing illumination onto the physical plane. And then this is followed by a period of listening, or what is called esoterically echoic conversation. So we enter into the period of listening, or that what is called echoic conversation. So we will have 8 minutes communication with our angel of presence. And hopefully you have been having your notebook so you can write your impressions and maybe some messages for yourself. Tibetan is asking us to give let me see, it's from Dina 2, page I think 495, somewhere there. This meditation is to be found. So Tibetan is asking us daily take a contact with the solar angel. And this is for all of us very important practices to really stand within in the presence of the inner being and rehearse that contact. This is also up to every disciple, individual disciple, to create one's own methods to keep the contact. So, dear friends, we are now just wishing you a very beautiful day, who still have days. We here in Finland, I mean in Europe, we are already in the night. It is midnight, 3 minutes to midnight here in Finland, and something similar into the other countries. So thank you so much for your participation, for your presence. Think about the book that we are writing for the glory of God, and find your quotes and visualize the future that we are going to put there in the book. Good manifesto of the future for all of us. And tomorrow we will continue. I think it is was it at 7 a.m. GMT or what it was. But I put a piece of music. Yes, thank you. Good night from here, and lots of love and many blessings. Talk to you again and meet you soon after a few hours. Bye for now.